Good evening, University of Maryland. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the 10th Annual Maryland Smith Women Inspire Program honoring Smith alumni Wendy Sanhai and Ali Von Paris. Please note this webinar is being recorded and will be captioned. If you have questions, please use the Q&A feature to enter any questions or comments you may have for the presenters. My name is Mark Forrest, and I am the Program Director of Alumni Relations at the Robert H. Smith School of Business. We have a great virtual crowd this evening with over 300 alumni, students, faculty, staff, and guests showing their interest in this event. Thank you all for joining us this evening as we continue to showcase Maryland Smith's fearless alumni leaders excelling in business. As I mentioned, this is the 10th year for the Women Inspire program, which started out as Women Leading Women in 2012. At this time, I would like to recognize all of our past honorees who are in attendance. Lisa Anders, MBA 95, our first honoree in 2012. Kristen Welch, class of 90, MBA 06, the 2013 honoree. Brenda Freeman, class of 87, MBA 91, 2014 honoree. Andrea Brody, class of 87, our 2015 honoree. Margarita Chang, class of 93, the 2017 honoree. Donna Blackman, EMBA 2010, the 2018 honoree. And Sharika Ekbo, MBA 09, one of our 2020 honorees. Our 2019 and our other 2020 honoree cannot be with us. That would be Carly Fiorina and Meg Gothwaite. Thank you all for joining us this evening. I would now like to introduce our next speaker. As Dean of the Robert H. Smith School of Business, Prabhudev Kanana leads the school's mission to promote research excellence and an inclusive learning environment and equip leaders to assess complex problems and deliver innovative solutions. He is a recipient of the NSF Career Award, an accomplished researcher with several Best Paper Awards into the value of social networks in IT, and an outstanding teacher with numerous teaching awards. Please welcome Dean Prabhudev Kanana.
Thank you, Mark. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 10th Annual Women Inspire event. I'm Prabhudev Kanana, the Dean of Robert H. Smith School of Business. I'm very happy to be here and join so many of our students, alumni, faculty, and staff. And I would a special welcome to the previous honorees. It's so wonderful to see you all. Tonight is a special evening for us to celebrate and honor two Smith alumni as part of Women's History Month at Maryland Smith. This is going to be an exciting and a wonderful event. Before I proceed further, I would like to say, in my own personal and professional life, there are so many women who have inspired me throughout. One is my mom, who didn't study beyond 3rd grade. And my 3 sisters who helped me be what I am today because they funded much of my education when I came to the US. And in the professional world, we have a wonderful person, Professor Ritu Agarwal, and I believe she's on the audience here. She has inspired us, many of us who came from India, immigrants, with her academic mentoring of us, of many of us. So thank you, Ritu, who is here as well. Since joining the Smith School, I've been constantly impressed by our faculty, students, and the passion of the alumni base. There's a wonderful sense of community here at Smith. Just from few statistics that stands out, I'm just looking at the new set of students coming into our undergraduate program. And if you look at their profile, we are the 2nd best in Big Ten, slightly below University of Michigan. So we have incredible talent coming in to the school. And I'm so proud to say that 18 members of our faculty were recently ranked in the top 2% worldwide of being influential scholars. And Professor Ritu Agarwal is one of them. Our new Flex MBA program gives students access to top faculty on a truly flexible schedule. Students can move freely between online and on-campus classes, depending on what is best for them. One of the most interesting statistics we like to say, that executive MBA class has 54% women for the very first time, and we are extremely proud of that milestone. And it is also extremely diverse. Within that group, we have 22% African Americans in that program. And now to the reason we're all here, it is honor to introduce two of our honorees today, Dr. Wendy Sanhai, whom I met multiple times so far as a member of the advisory board of the Smith School, class of 2009 executive MBA cohort. Dr. Sanhai is a specialist leader at Deloitte Consulting. And our second honoree is Ali Von Paris, who received her Bachelor's of Science in Finance and Supply Chain in 2012. Ali is now the CEO and the founder of Route One Apparel. And during the break earlier, I told her I already registered on her website. And she's the upcoming Kendra Scott. I came from Macomb School of Business before, where she graduated from Kendra Scott. And we are so proud of both of them. Thank you, Wendy and Ali, for your commitment and dedication to Smith and the University of Maryland overall. And both have been extremely active in our advisory board in various forms, and thank you. And I look forward to working with you. It is now my pleasure to introduce Nicole Coomber, our moderator for this evening. Nicole is Assistant Dean of the full-time MBA program and Associate Clinical Professor in Management and Organization. In addition to teaching management, leadership, and consulting, she is dedicated to helping women manage their complex lives more effectively. And I've interacted with Nicole. I have no idea how she manages to teach so much while managing family, managing a huge program. Nicole's writing has appeared in the Washington Post, Forbes, Insights with Impact, and many other places. She is currently writing a management textbook with Pearson, which is currently in market testing. She has a PhD in education policy and leadership from the University of Maryland. She's a mom of 4 lovely boys under the age of 10. I've seen actually one of them during one of the interviews, one of my interaction with her. Now I will turn over to Nicole to introduce the honorees. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dean Konana. I am super excited to be here tonight. We have 2 amazing honorees. I'm going to introduce a little bit more about each one of them. Dr. Wendy Sanhai graduated with an EMBA from the Smith School in 2009, and she has extensive experience across a broad spectrum of issues in the pharmaceutical, biotech, and medical device industries, as well as in regulatory science. Over the course of her career, she has held some key leadership roles in academia, federal research, regulatory organizations such as the NIH and the FDA, and most recently in private industry. Dr. Sanhai is a member of the board of directors for Medicines for Malaria Ventures, an associate professor at the Duke University School of Maryland, and chair-elect of the advisory board at the Robert H. Smith School of Business. Dr. Sanhai received her PhD in clinical biochemistry and structural biology from the School of Medicine at SUNY Buffalo and an executive MBA from Smith, as well as a baccalaureate degree in chemistry from the University of Florida, which I didn't know that you got your degree at the University of Florida. That's awesome. I grew up in Florida. She came to speak to my undergraduate class and my full-time MBA class this week, and they were blown away with how impressive and kind she is. Please welcome Wendy Sanhai. We can, if I know that I can't see you all, but you can clap with sign language clap, as we like to do in our full-time MBA program. Thanks so much for joining us, Wendy. Our next honoree is Ali Von Paris, class of 2012. She is our young alum honoree. And Ali Von Paris is the CEO and founder of Route One Apparel, the premier source for trendy and affordable Maryland Pride apparel and accessories. We are all sporting our beautiful Route One Apparel scarves this evening. I'm going to let Ali tell you the story of how her company got founded. It is amazing. But Route One Apparel offers more than 3,000 unique products and designs that are sported by local icons and fans of all ages. Ali's received many accolades for her success in entrepreneurship, including the Baltimore Sun's Women to Watch, the Daily Record's Leading Women, and very important Professional Successful by 40. That's a great title. I love that, Ali. As well as the Baltimore Business Journal's 40 Under 40. In 2016, she was honored with an Outstanding Young Alumnus Award from the University of Maryland's Alumni Association and Alumni Entrepreneur of the Year by the Dingman Center of Entrepreneurship. Ali's a member of Omicron Delta Kappa and currently serves on the boards of Maryland Tourism Development Board, the University of Maryland Robert H. Smith School of Business Board, and Preservation Maryland. Ali graduated from the University of Maryland with a BA in finance, that's a BS, I think, BS in finance and supply chain in 2012. Well, please welcome Ali Von Paris. Yay. All right, we've got some congratulations coming in the chat. Yes, and so we are so excited to learn from our two honorees this evening. We're going to start with just a few questions that I will lead, and then we will go to audience Q&A. So we will be opening up an opportunity for you to ask some questions of the guests yourselves. There is a Q&A, should be a Q&A option on the bottom of your Zoom window. Normally, obviously, if you've been to this event in person, we walk around, but we've got a new way to do this. We're going to start just by having each of you tell us a bit more about your career journey and how Smith contributed to your career journey. So Wendy, why don't you go ahead and start?
Sure, thank you, Nicole. And can I just say, this is like my absolute favorite scarf. Thank you so much, Ali. This is from Route One Apparel. So we're twins today, Nicole. You and
Yes, they're beautiful.
So thank you for the question. My career journey actually can be described probably best by Robert Frost's words in his poem, The Road Not Taken, in which he said, "Two roads diverge in the wood and I chose the one less traveled, and that has made all the difference." My career has really gone through a number of twists and turns, and so I'm hoping to share some life lessons. If you can think about it as pearls of wisdom as I gathered along the way. So about 20 years ago, I graduated with my PhD in clinical biochemistry, but I knew at the time that bench science was not what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. However, at that time, over 20 years ago, that was pretty much the most common pathway forward. So alternative careers in science were a little bit of a different type. It was a novelty at that time. I had about 12 postdoctoral fellowships offered to me, but I chose instead an unusual path. I accepted a position to be the clinical fellow at the University of Maryland Hospital in the Department of Pathology, right here at the Greenbaum Cancer Center at the University of Maryland. And in that role, I oversaw operations for the clinical chemistry labs. So I oversaw NICU, shock trauma, the emergency room, and rapid response labs. And I also, of course, did some teaching and research as well. It was a huge, steep learning curve. I remember the first day I walked into the emergency room and I looked at the board. There were about 14 patients' names, and next to 12 of them, it said GSW, and I had no idea what that meant. Of course, I immediately found out it meant gunshot wound. And up until then, I had lived a very, very sheltered life. So this is, of course, now downtown Baltimore, and it was a rude awakening. But here's lesson one, if I might be so bold. When life throws different challenges or you choose a career path, you must do it with the understanding that there will be a lot to learn. And so you have to learn as much as you can, as quickly as you can. Don't waste time complaining or worrying. That time will never come back. And so at around that time that I was completing my fellowship, I received a call from the NIH, and I accepted a job that I knew almost nothing about. It was a technology licensing specialist and patent advisor for the Office of Technology Transfer at NIH. It was the furthest away from my home. It paid the least. And at that time, I couldn't even define what intellectual property was. Yet another steep learning curve. However, life lesson number two, when sometimes we have to take a leap of faith as opportunities present themselves, and we have to do that evaluation. And of course, we're all in business together. We do our SWOT analysis and our pros and cons and our spreadsheet. But at the end of the day, we have to go with that gut feeling of what feels right. So you take a leap of faith, you lean in, you never second guess yourself, you never look backwards. It's almost like you're driving a car and you have the windscreen, which is so much bigger, relatively speaking, compared to the rearview mirror, which is also very important. But what you want to do is to look at the rearview mirror for perspective and to learn from the past, but never, ever, ever to live in it. So I spent the next decade or so between NIH and FDA with increasing responsibilities and, of course, increasing rewards. And that was where Smith came into the picture. That was how Smith entered my life. I was there at the FDA serving as a senior scientific advisor to the commissioner's office, reporting to Dr. Janet Woodcock, who till this day is the best boss I've ever had in my career. And I remember telling Janet, I was developing and creating, implementing, and managing large-scale scientific initiatives all along the mission of FDA. negotiating contracts and grants, international negotiations. And I remember telling her one day, you know, Dr. Woodcock, I have no formal training in finance or negotiations. And she looked at me and said, Wendy, but you do it better than the people who do have the training. So I made a deal with her. I asked for permission from her to enroll in Smith's executive MBA program on the following conditions. I said, Dr. Woodcock, nothing will ever slip. I will never miss a deadline. No member of my team will be or feel neglected. Essentially, I will take my vacation and I won't even need to take leave or leave of absence. In fact, I said to her, Dr. Woodcock, you won't even know I'm doing this. And so she looked at me with a smile and said, okay, Wendy, you can go ahead. And I remember walking out of her office that day thinking, oh my gosh, what have I done? I have 2 young children. I have a 4-hour commute a day because I was living in Northwest Baltimore and this was FDA all the way down in Rockville. And probably the most important detail is I had no way of paying for this degree. So life lesson number 3, life challenges don't always come with little boxes with pretty bows with solutions in them. So you have to figure things out as you go. So with a small scholarship from the Smith School and every little bit counted, believe you me, I refinanced my house, figured out how to pay for this. And for the next 18 months, I slept about 3 hours a night. But 12 years later, I'm here. And Smith has really shaped my career from that point on. Back over to you, Nicole.
I just want to comment, there's so many lovely comments about you coming in the chat, just that you're such a mentor, an inspiration, and that you take time out to mentor and be kind to people in addition to your amazing accomplishments. And so just
Well,
that love is all coming in for you. So you are truly an inspiration for so many people. You know, I love what you said, because you have this amazing accomplished career, and yet it didn't follow this straight and narrow path, right? And so many students, what I see happen is they think that they have to have the answer as soon as they graduate from college, and that's just not always the case. And you followed, taken opportunities, sort of leapt, and then hoped that the net would appear, and it happened. And so I love that story, and I think it really should demonstrate, you know, that first job out of college, sometimes it's going to lead in new and different places that you might not expect. And that openness is so key to having a accomplished and wonderful career. I want to move to Allie. Allie, it's your turn. Do you want to tell us a little bit? I know your journey is a bit different, and but no less inspiring or interesting. So can you tell us a bit about your career journey and how Smith helped you get there?
Wendy, it's so humbling to hear your story, by the way, and I'm reading all the comments as well, and you have such a fan group. But I'd love to just talk about how Smith has impacted me as an undergrad. So my story is that I'm a first-generation college student. I was actually on complete financial aid when I was a student, and my mom, she works at T. Rowe Price, and she has always told me that, you know, go the finance route. And frankly, I didn't really know much about finance. I just signed up for it. And I was actually information systems at the time. And in order for me to pay my way through school, I was working at a local bar called the Thirsty Turtle, which has gone through a couple iterations over the many years that building has existed. But as a junior, I was working there almost full time while attending school. And unfortunately, that bar met its demise. It had a couple too many underage citations and was forced to close. And despite the fact that obviously that was warranted, I was devastated because I couldn't figure out how I was going to be able to pay my rent and attend school. And so I was looking at all of these people share their memories of the bar. And it was truly one of those light bulb moments where I thought of the idea of making a support jersey for the bar, came up with the concept of it saying Turtle Survivor on the front, barely remembered, never forgotten on the back. And I got the permission of the bar owner to post about it and posted it on my social media, and it absolutely went viral. Initially, I thought I'd be ordering about 30, and I got requests for over 500. Back then, although I was attending the business school, I didn't really know how to start a business or launch something. I was figuring it out as I was going along. So I was navigating how to do this as it was quickly gaining virality. So what was about, a couple thousand likes on a photo, I turned into a Facebook event, which had about 5,000 attendees that requested one. And all of this time, I had no idea still how to collect all these orders. An acquaintance of mine in school with me actually suggested that I make a website. And little did I know he actually was trying to make the website and me give him permission for the design. And he was like, I'm not going to give you the password. I'll just tell you the reporting and all of that stuff. But I played naive and I said, how do you make a website? And he said, GoDaddy. And I was like, well, how do you collect payment? And he said, PayPal. So I called an emergency meeting with a couple trusted friends of mine, other fellow business students. And I said, we need to launch this website tonight, or I might just lose this idea. I didn't even know about copyright and infringement and trademark at the time, but I called an emergency meeting and we figured out how to make a website that night. I walked down to Route 1 and I walked into the Bank of America, and the lady there who I was setting up my first bank account, she said, what are you going to name this business? And we're all shooting names around. We thought Turtle Survivor Jerseys.com, something like that. And I said, no, I think if this is something that could be scalable, I want it to be a larger kind of name. And so we thought of Route 1 Apparel. I made the website that night. I sent the link out to the people on the Facebook event. And I said, don't believe any other links. This is the legitimate website. You can purchase it here. And funny story about that day as well, I was faced with my first fork in the road because I had a project due that night, but I thought if I didn't send that out that night, I would maybe lose my entire opportunity. And I figured my business professor would understand. So launched the website, went to bed, woke up in the morning, and I had $12,000 in my brand new PayPal account. And that was the most money I've ever seen in my entire life. And that is kind of the start of Route 1 Apparel. How Smith got more involved, particularly Dingman, was I started recruiting students all over campus to represent our street team. And I got the concept because I was in a lot of clubs and I figured entrepreneurship is a really awesome thing to be involved with. And it stems more than just beyond the business school. So I welcomed any majors to join. We had student athletes involved in promoting it. We had Greek life, all of that. And for the next 2 years while I was still a student, I promoted it as a street team club. And that's what really got our attention with licensing at University of Maryland. And the previous licensee director, Joe Ebaugh, great guy, reached out to me and said, we'd love for you to get licensing with University of Maryland. And again, I was naive to not even realize that was a possibility for me at the time. So once I got that licensing, I started realizing and getting more and more curious about future opportunities. So while I was still a student, and I can talk about this a little later, but I was also a finalist in Cupid's Cup my senior year. Although I didn't win, that fueled me to prove anyone who didn't believe in my business wrong, to continue to grow it. And I'm so glad I did. I took the business from my dorm room to my parents' house to now a 14,000-ish square foot building in Towson that we had purchased a couple of years ago. And the way Smith has impacted me and my business has been consistent and growing all of these years. Obviously, with first being an undergraduate, with the Dingman Center, with Cupid's Cup, I'm on the Young Alumni Council, and I always try to remain active on there. And as Nicole mentioned, on the business school board as well. So, Smith has contributed fully. We've been engaged with them all of this time. So.
Sorry, I'm trying to find my mute button in the Q&A. There's so many places that I could go with that, but I just want to pull out one thing that I think is really inspiring for students, for current students, especially undergrads. I too am a first-gen college student, and I think that's not always something that people assume, right, about you. And so there are so many students that I sit in my classes who are doing the same. You know, they're working down at Bentley's. I know a lot of them got hit very hard with COVID because they couldn't pull those bartending jobs, those waitressing jobs. And I loved the other piece too that I love about your story is that there's a lot of times people will say things like, oh, you can't be an entrepreneur, you know, from college. You're not going to learn what you need to know there, right? And to a certain extent, you did both, right? You took advantage of what was at Smith, but then also learn as you go, right? There were licensing things, but you had people to help you. And so I think the really key piece for a lot of students is that there is learning. I mean, as a professor, right, there's learning that kind of happens in the classroom, but there's a ton of learning that happens outside of it. That emergency team of friends that helped you troubleshoot the challenge. You know, the Dingman Center who reached out to you, the street team, and learning to be a manager, right, while you're still in undergrad. All of those things, you know, also contributed to your own learning and growth. And so I just love how you maximize both the in classroom and all these other resources that Smith has to offer.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was going to jump to another question, but please finish up.
Well, I was just going to mirror what you said, and looking back at my journey at Smith as an undergrad, I always assumed that my classes just were to prepare me for a career path, possibly working for someone else or in corporate. And I don't think that that's necessarily just the only path that the Smith School can place for you. And so that's why I've always tried to stay active and involved post-graduation, is to also encourage people to see outside that box and to realize that all of those skill sets can also apply to starting your own career path.
And definitely a shout out for the Dingman Center, and also to, some gratitude for Ali, who gave a generous gift yesterday on our big giving day to the Dingman Center. So thank you for that. I know it's so greatly appreciated. We had a little happy hour for Giving Day yesterday, and we were talking about your generosity. I have a question that came in through the chat, and so I actually thought maybe I would go ahead and ask that one because it's sort of related to what we're talking about. Ritu Agarwal, our wonderful Senior Associate Dean, has asked, it's so great to hear your personal stories. It's incredibly inspiring. My question is, if there's one thing you would like to have seen done differently at Smith during your time at Smith, what would that be?
Maybe I can get started first. I know one of the things that I truly benefited from was the leadership coaching. And I would probably spend a little bit more time on that, because I think for me, the most eye-opening experience as an executive MBA student was not just, okay, well, you have to learn finance and you have to learn accounting and all the various business principles and marketing and everything else. But it's truly, for me, what was most meaningful is, you know, holding that mirror up and reflecting on yourself to realize what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what's truly your passion in life and how you want to go about it, and to move forward with that conviction. So for me, that executive coaching, the negotiations, the thinking through, figuring out what your derailers are, you know, how do you function under stress, and how do you prepare yourself for those situations, which are inevitable in everyone's life. That for me was perhaps one of the most helpful aspects of my executive MBA, and I'd like to see more emphasis on that.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's so valuable. And the other thing too, I'd say for that is that students sometimes don't realize, you know, the faculty can coach you, particularly in subject matter expertise, right? You have your career coaches, but you also have other people in your network, and to maximize that. I have students will just like pop onto my calendar for 15 minutes. And that's definitely something that I think we could all be doing more of. It's a great point. Ali?
Well, for the first several years of me being a business major student, I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do. So I signed up for a whole bunch of different kinds of things that didn't really blend. Like I was in the music management fellows program because I possibly figured that I might want to go into concerts and manage music and bands and things like that. So looking back, you know, now that I've kind of felt and developed my skill sets, and I never would have imagined that I would be in fashion and design and apparel, but I've only taken one marketing class at Smith. So I would love to take more marketing classes so that all of these things I'm doing every day kind of make sense from a, you know, educational standpoint. Or, you know, I also realized that there were a lot of collaborative classes post-graduation with other schools in design or in, you know, even architecture or something like that. And I wish that I would have collaborated with some other schools to learn more than just the finance and supply chain that I did focus in on.
Yeah, I think some cross-campus collaborations definitely would enhance a lot of students. And I think sometimes maybe, getting the word out about them could be something we could do, more of, because it's such a great point. And we have really great talent all across the campus. Okay, so I'm going to pop onto our next question, prepared question, which is, everyone experiences career setbacks. Can you talk about one setback you experienced and how you overcame it, and any advice for the audience? And Allie, I'd like to start with you on this one.
So there's a couple that come to mind. I would say one of the setbacks, and I know everyone's probably talking about these because it's most recent, is just what COVID did to my business. So just to put things in perspective, I'm a very optimistic person. And last year we were celebrating our 10th year in business. And I thought that 2020 was going to be our best year. I was gearing up for a really strong Maryland Day, which is March 25th. We celebrate all things Maryland in March. And I hired a bunch of new help, and a lot of these people left other opportunities to work for me. And as you can recall, in March, that's when the discussions were happening about possible shutdowns. And then the governor was hosting daily press briefings, and everyone was kind of just holding their breath to figure out, is this the day that our businesses are going to close? And that's what we were faced with. And I know I joke about this, but I don't think, selling Maryland clothing is essential. So I was very much worried, although I had a growing team and it was a very important year for us, that this could have been the end of our business. And so I was faced with probably one of my toughest challenges as a small business owner that I ever had, because we've grown year after year. And I just was kind of deer in headlights about just that assumption that nothing was going to change that. But outside factors did. And I just remember seeing in my employees' eyes just the fear that, are we going to lose our jobs? And that was the last thing that I wanted to do to anyone. So I was just very transparent with all of them. But I was also trying to hone in on the things that had helped us grow all of these years. And it was to continue to listen to our customers and what people were saying on social media, and just the trends that I was seeing online and purchasing. And despite the fact that I thought, no one's going to be buying Maryland gear, what I did notice was that people were buying a lot of our bandanas. And then I started getting calls from our vendors, our manufacturers, and saying, what can you do to, help us? So I was getting forced to think creatively. And I was also looking at what was happening online, and I was asking, why are you buying these bandanas? And I realized that people were making face masks out of them. So we initially started by, making we all thought that we were just going to quarantine for 2 weeks. So we started making these kind of, trendy t-shirts, wash your hands instead of wash your hands on a t-shirt. We donated proceeds back to a charity with that shirt. We made the Stay Home Hun with the Netty Bow logo wearing a mask, and those started going viral, and we were supporting our screen printers with that. Then I saw an article about lack of PPE and how Under Armour donated fanny packs to a local hospital. I realized I had 3,000 fanny packs sitting in my warehouse, and I decided to donate them. So then the conversations just started kind of snowballing. We started seeing more feedback online, and that is when we started getting asked to make face masks. And I was faced with my first challenge of realizing I did not truly want to give anyone the idea that I wanted to profit off of a pandemic per se. So I really thought about it. And for several weeks, I was unsure whether or not I was going to make face masks. But I realized that when I did, I wanted to make sure there was a give back aspect to those face masks. So when I launched the face masks, I made sure that we got our licensees involved, like McCormick, Netty Bow, and we made all of these different designs. And we made sure that for every retail order sold, we donated one. And I wanted it to be 100% transparent on our website, where we live populated our donations and all of that. And sure enough, and we kept the price fair as well. We kept them $10 each. And sure enough, to this date, we've donated over 200,000 face masks. And I would have never thought that that number, quantity of sales would have ever existed in my entire career. But that really helped us just maintain our positive messaging. And, you know, I didn't expect that to happen, but for the first couple of weeks when we were trying to do the work from home thing, because we didn't have any orders, I ended up having to call everyone back and hire more help because of all of that. So
that's amazing. Well, as someone said in the chat, what an incredible pivot. And, you know, I think none of us could have predicted how long we'd be wearing the masks. And I definitely am like, I need to like re-up my mask supply. And, you know, we may be wearing them for a while. So it's, you know, I think it's definitely a good item to have. We didn't realize how long that would happen. Wendy, what about you? What about some setbacks that you had and how did you overcome them?
Well, first of all, let me say, Ali, what an amazing story of resilience and, you know, creativity. Thank you so much for sharing that. Maybe I could share something a little bit more personal on, you know, challenges that I've faced. So in 2011, it was one sunny, cold February morning, and my husband of almost 22 years went to the gym and never came back home. He had a massive MI, and so overnight I became a single mom of two young boys, 15 and 7 at the time. And so we were absolutely devastated. As you can imagine, we had no family close by. We had no backup plan. I had no idea how I was going to take care of myself and my two boys. I couldn't stay at home. I had to work. I had mortgage payments. I had car payments. I had kids to send to college. I had mouths to feed. I was working at the FDA at the time. And so it was truly my FDA family, my Smith family, and my closest friends who came to the rescue of my sons and I. I had an amazing team at the FDA, and I'm so proud to say that with their help, not a single deadline was ever missed, not a single milestone was delayed. They were there to support us. So herein, Nicole, lies sort of my life lesson number 4, and that is, there are times in life, and we just heard that amazing story from Ali, how she pivoted, but there are times in life when we have to lend a helping hand. And there are other times in life when we have to accept a helping hand. And as very strong women, we are taught to be, as successful people, we have to be strong, we have to be independent, we have to fend for ourselves and make it on our own. But about the time that I got to be about 100 pounds, and I realized that my hair was falling off my head, I realized that I had to be humble and gracious and accept help from others. And so whenever friends came up to me and said, "Oh, Wendy, can we help you with this?" And I would say, "Oh, no, I got this." I actually realized that I was robbing them of the blessing to be of service. And so that was my life lesson. I learned to say, "Yes, please. We'd love to come over. My boys and I would love to come over for dinner," not because I couldn't cook, but because staying home and facing the 4 walls with the understanding that their father would never come back home was not something that I wanted to do all the time. Or thanking my friends when they came by to pick up my boys and take them to the movies or to the park with their kids, and letting them know that this is great because finally I can get some rest because it's been 2 days and I haven't slept. And that was for me a realization that as I was accepting help from these friends, at some point I will have the blessing of being of service to others. And so that was sort of my golden rule, the karma, the way things are supposed to occur in life. And I don't know if anybody knows the poem Footprints in the Sand. Now, when I look back on that time and I see one set of footprints, I know it wasn't me alone, but that I was being carried. But I also know that in difficult times, I too will have the opportunity to carry someone else, and that will be my blessing.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That was very moving. And, you know, I think it's a really powerful testament to grace and humility and accepting help. Thank you. So we have, man, I have my last question for you all, but we have so many questions coming in the chat that I want to have some time to go into those because I think there's some really lovely ones in the chat.
Before you go to the next question, can I just say, I don't want to end this on a negative note. So 7 years ago, the most amazing man walked up and knocked on my door in Cary, North Carolina. 6 months later, we were married. And he is the most amazing husband, and I have never been so happy than the past 7 years. So let me just.
I don't know if you saw it, but he said you were an amazing wife.
I haven't been reading all the chats, but I just wanted to say that
You were amazing.
there is light at the end of the tunnel for
Oh, that's so beautiful.
and
Okay.
my 2 boys are doing very, very well.
We didn't know we were going to need tissues. So next. People are just saying thank you so much for sharing, and powerful story. Someone said that not only did you keep up, but Wendy supported so many of us at FDA to make a difference using her business acumen, something needed for creative things going on here. So, I mean, your colleagues are here in full force.
Well, let me tell you, as I was doing my executive MBA, every single week they got an MBA class, whether they wanted it or not.
That's wonderful. Okay, so let's go over to the chat. Wendy, this is a question for you. Knowing that you've worked in healthcare, big pharma, government, regulatory agencies, run your own business, and now Deloitte, what's helped you take that leap of faith when you've pivoted to a new area, sorry. And thanks for being with us tonight.
Oh, I'm sorry, what was the question? What?
So you've been in all these different industries. What's kind of helped you take that leap of faith and pivot and feel okay moving into something completely foreign?
You know, I wish I had the secret sauce for that, Nicole. To be honest with you, I've always approached life as a series of opportunities, even the failures. They are opportunities for learning. And I always, you know, and my team, I tell them all the time, it's, you know, your mind is like a parachute. It's only when it's open that it works well. And so I've always just kept a very open mind about opportunities and again, this concept of leaning in and trying your best when opportunities present themselves. And I also kind of look at it as, you know, there's an element of luck in all of this, and we all know that. But I think luck and hard work go hand in hand. They're inseparable. So I kind of look at it as hard work is what you do when luck knocks at your door. And that's the philosophy that I've had in life.
I'm going to combine two kind of questions that came in. Have you had any kind of fears about entering the business world as a female? And kind of there's a lot of talk about implicit bias that affect women in the professional world. And have you faced anything like that? And maybe give the audience, especially male members of the audience, you know, how can they be more helpful or sensitive, or, you know, how can they help you? And Ali, if you want to start, that'd be great.
My biggest fear for the first many years of starting my business was just fear of failure and losing, you know, all the money that I saved up for everything, because I graduated college, and I remember when I had my graduating walk, and they gave us a piece of paper and it asked us what our career selection was, where we were planning on working, and what our salary was. And I said zero. I had no career, and I said $0. And so I felt like I had amounted, even though I felt like I had a lot to take away, I felt like I also had nothing. And so my biggest fear was letting down my parents, letting down everyone who thought, you know, going to school meant getting a career, because I wasn't choosing a career. I was choosing working for myself. So for the first couple of years, I just kept worrying that I was going to disappoint people. But then I realized that as long as I didn't have my own self-doubt, that I could just continue to take steps forward. And even if they were small steps, I was still making steps towards progress. And eventually, all of those certain fears about not reaching certain goals, I had future goals that I was focusing on, and they kept getting bigger and larger, and the opportunities kept getting larger and bigger. And I wasn't as intimidated about disappointing people, because I had more things to kind of show for my own success. So it got easier as my business got older, and I had more things that I could say I accomplished. But that was a scary thing for a while.
It's so brave, quite honestly, to say that you're afraid, because I think we look at the both of you and we just think, oh, I could never be like that. You're so, you know, fearless. And And truthfully, it isn't kind of leaning into that fear and admitting it that it's just so powerful. So thank you for sharing that, because I think it's very real. Wendy, what about you? Have you faced any implicit bias or kind of, worries and fears about kind of being a woman in business?
Well, I think, we live in an era right now where that is so rampant. And, I don't fit the regular profile of, what a successful businesswoman or a successful scientist might be. I remember one time being called into, and I'm not going to call names, being called into my chemistry professor's office. And I thought, oh my gosh, did I not do my homework? Did I not turn it in? And he had me sit down in his office, and he looked at me and he said, Wendy, you will go far in life, and you will do amazing things. And it's because you're not white and you're a woman. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe he was saying this. I didn't know whether to say thank you, sir, or just walk out the office. I think it's very clear that in our lives, most of us, I would say, would face some sort of implicit bias. But as Ali said, you have to know who you are. You have to surround yourself with mentors who believe in you, and just pioneer forward. And these little obstacles or bumps in the road, you just have to overcome them and find a support system for yourself, know yourself, and recognize that, courage is not the absence of fear. It's just working through that fear. And you can't live your life with that fear all the time.
All right, now I'm off mute. So Ali, I have a question, and I think we're running close to time, and I do want to leave at least a few questions for our lightning round at the end. So I'm going to ask, I think this is a really important one for Ali. What advice would you give to rising seniors who really don't know what kind of business or field they want to enter upon graduation?
Well, first of all, I would tell them that don't feel bad about that, because I was in their same shoes as they were. I literally had no idea what I was going to be doing post-graduation. And, naturally, the one takeaway I started realizing is that my whole life up until that point, a lot of it was based on what other people told me I should be doing, whether by accident or, just a natural thing that, your parents do or your peers do. Everyone's always trying to equate to, what you plan on doing. Why are you in school? Where do you want to study? But the reality is that that should be the time. School should be the time to just immerse yourself in all experiences, not necessarily to grasp onto something to then make your full-time career. But just to get experiences, because once you have all of those experiences, and they could be in all different kinds of things, you start taking pieces of each one of them to realize this is something I'm leaning towards, or this is something that I'm, curious to do. But from a student standpoint, I would just say, don't be intimidated by all the noise and all the distraction and all the things that other people tell you to do. Just start following opportunities that you gravitate towards. And don't just be motivated by things that might make you money. A lot of people just want to say, oh, what's the most expensive, what's the job that I can get that's going to make me the most money. And the reality is there's people out there that are making money on social media, and making money on, there's people that I know that there's one person that I know that has over $1 million business selling soap. I talked about this the other day, but truly you can make money doing anything. So I would just say, just don't get distracted by the noise.
All right, I'm going to wrap up with one more question. So just keep in mind, everyone, there is the virtual networking hour. So I know, Anna, you've asked some wonderful questions. Ellen, Zhang, you asked a wonderful question. So you can come to the networking hour. There's going to be breakout sessions, so you'll get more time to talk with Wendy and Ali. I'm going to end the audience Q&A before the lightning round with this question from Salvatore. You are both amazingly resilient, persistent, and successful personally and professionally. What is the next great accomplishment you want to achieve in your professional life? Wendy, why don't you start, and we'll end with Ali.
Oh my goodness. If I can continue making impactful changes to public health and to patients, I would be thrilled. And I don't know what shape or form that's going to take in the future. But I feel like we've all been put on the face of this earth with one purpose. It makes it very simple for me, and that is to be in service to others. So if I can do that in public health or global health, in whatever shape or form that takes, I would be thrilled to take that on as my next challenge in life.
Awesome. Alan?
I'll have to mirror what Wendy said. This past year has taught me that, especially that we are a community brand, and the only way that we've gotten through this is with the support of fellow community members, whether it was fellow businesses or our customers and all of that. And something that I've found a lot of happiness in is just our collaborations with local charities and local businesses. When they come to us and they have a struggle in something, I've realized that our skill sets are not just in making Maryland themed clothing. We're a design and marketing company. You know, we can make custom product. So if I'm just helping others with their challenges and anything like that, it just brings a lot of joy to us. And I think the beautiful thing about my business is that I've worked with all different kinds of industries. You know, Maryland Pride is vast, and everyone in Maryland likes the flag. So we've been able to meet a lot of really interesting people, a lot of really awesome businesses. And so I just want to continue to spread our wings and just see how we can help others. And the something that was really interesting that just happened was we got a call from a local distillery. Obviously, they've been affected by the pandemic. A lot of the brewery and distillery and winery industries have not been able to have visitors and all of that because of the pandemic. And I got a phone call from someone, and he, Scott from Tobacco Barn Distillery, and he said, you know, I don't know how we can work together, but I just feel like we could do something together. And that conversation, we just kind of went down the rabbit hole, and I was like, you know, it'd be really neat if we could sell your bourbon and rum on our website. And he said, I'm meeting with the comptroller, maybe we can work something out. And sure enough, we actually figured out how to sell, you know, bourbon and rum and all of that on our website. So collaboration is key.
When I was browsing your website, I was like, delicious.
Yeah. So I just think, you know, if I continue to stay, no one's going to continue to grow if you just stay in your bubble. And I just think fostering more collaboration and community development is just huge for us. So yeah.
Awesome. Okay, lightning round. I normally have these on cards and I pick them at random, but I put them in random.org, the questions that I gave you. So the first one is, when you want to learn something new, where do you go to learn it? Wendy.
So I know Ali and I are going to disagree with this, but I was trained as a scientist. And so my tendency would be to go sort of the more empirical, scientific, fact-based sources for information. I would never go, Ali, to social media. And I know that's the first place you go. I read articles and, you know, and I tell my kids all the time, just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's true. So that's not always the first place I go. So I tend to not make sort of decisions based on emotions, but based more on facts. So that's kind of where I go for my information. Scientific journals. I know I'm a geek.
Scientific journals. All right, scientific. That's good. Ali?
I have figured out how to fact check things on social media somehow, I guess, because whenever I'm trying to learn something, I go on one social media and then I try to dig a little deeper with hashtags, and then I go over to Twitter, search images. I have this whole shebang that I do, but you know, I grew up on social media since, you know, I was 14, 15. So I don't know, it's just second nature to me.
Okay, that's the key. I'm much older than her, and that's why.
Speaking of age, the next question is, what's one quick piece of advice you would give to a younger version of yourself? Ali, you go first.
Oh gosh, younger version of me.
20-year-old Ali.
I would say, I would say, gosh, I don't know. I would just say, get more sleep, probably.
Yeah, that's a good one.
What about you, Wendy? What would you tell 20?
Yeah, there's an American author who said, don't wait for extraordinary opportunities to just seize common occasions and make them great ones. I would tell my younger self to keep your eyes peeled for those ordinary occasions that you can take and make great for yourselves. Be extra vigilant and look for opportunities to help others in those small opportunities.
Okay, and our last one is, if you could have a gigantic billboard with anywhere with anything on it, what would it say, Wendy?
So my grandmother used to always say, if you have a choice to be right or be kind, to choose to be kind. I would probably do that. And I'm going to put in another quick one. So I'll use half the billboard for that. And the other half, I have to quote Linus Pauling, who is a famous chemist. And he said, if you want to have a good idea, you have to have lots of good ideas.
I like that. Allie?
Well, naturally, my billboard would have to be in Maryland somewhere. But I love this quote. It says, like, the best way to predict the future is to create it. And to be honest with you, I mean, I know the question is about, you know, if you want it to be seen by millions or billions of people, but I was thinking more about resonance. And I thought that if we put the billboard somewhere like where it's maybe at my elementary school or middle school, and we show people that, you know, you could foster success in your local community and showcase a bunch of, you know, female focused leaders that came from that area, I think that would speak volumes to people and inspire more people to follow the path that I did.
Let's do it. How much does a billboard cost?
Well, Clear Channel.
Yeah. Awesome. This has been amazing. I think, Mark, I'm over time, but I tried to stay close to this. Has just been, I mean, we could talk all night. This is amazing. So Mark, I will pass it back over to you. Tell us, are we supposed to turn our cameras off? Let us know what we're supposed to do.
You can leave them on. Well, thank you so much. So what a great conversation. I definitely enjoyed that and appreciate both all of you. Many thanks to Nicole, Wendy, and Allie for their time with us this evening. And I thoroughly enjoyed hearing more about each of your stories. And two key points for me, if I just take a moment here, is Wendy's point about not robbing friends and family of the blessing to be of service. That is such a unique way of looking at that. And then Allie's point about not getting distracted by all the noise and suggestions that everyone throws at you, because everyone has a suggestion for your life, and it's good to just not listen to all of it. I appreciate both of that, both of those points. Since we are virtual this year, the gifts for the honorees were mailed. And so Wendy and Allie, feel free to share that with our audience so they can see exactly our token of appreciation for both of them being here. So you see the crystal turtle.
They are beautiful. Yes, and I'm going to make a nice pendant for a neck. They're gorgeous. I'm actually going to name mine. I'm going to name him Mark for my husband.
Oh,
your
nice.
name too, Mark.
It is. Great. So this concludes our virtual conversation portion of this year's Women Inspire.